just arriving so that he can then start the proceedings of the day. He's of course expected to first of course inspect the parade that has been rolled out for him before proceeding to first of course inspect and thereafter officially commission and open the Senate buildings. Let's listen in to what of course is going on. Stay with us.
National salute! Present arms! Your Excellency, Guard of Honor, mounted by State Battalion, Kenya Rifles, President American President. Excellency, may I have your permission to carry the parade? National salute! Present arms!
Kwa maana kimbia, tutoka kala nikimbie mahali.
Just made his way into the Parliament buildings where he'll be making the State of the Nation address. This is the last for his first term in office. Of course, lots of expectations on what he will be recapping for the people of Kenya, what the Jubilee government has been able to deliver in the last 4 years in power. Of course, this comes hot on the heels of the opposition actually taking on the government, indicating that the government hasn't been quite proactive in terms of delivering to the promises that it pledged when it took over power. And this is a historic day because we will be keen to hear what the president will be, of course, mentioning about issues to do with security, of course, the issue of healthcare, where we did see the doctors' strike was actually called off yesterday. And a lot of people expectant about this year's State of the Nation address as the president clears his first term in office. Well, some of the key issues that are set to feature in his speech, perhaps according to observers, is the fact that he will be taking stock really of the devolution agenda, what devolution has achieved for Kenya. Other than that, he'll also be making a spirited speech around issues to do with the provision of free primary education, and also the biggest plank of the Jubilee government was the fact that they would be delivering laptops to the school children. He'll also be making a statement regarding that particular issue and how far and how much this project has delivered and made an impact in the many lives of people in the country. Over and above that, the president is also tipped to perhaps address issues of corruption. Corruption has been a thorn in the flesh for the Jubilee administration, which has been grappling with wastage as well as loss, should I say, they've been actually rocked by a huge challenge when it comes to financial management, where the Auditor General has been citing that close to a third of the budget is lost annually to corruption. And this will be perhaps shaping a key agenda in the President's speech, and we'll be giving you the latest from this side of Parliament.
All right, the moment everyone has been waiting for, the president has arrived in Parliament at exactly 2:36 p.m. He made his way into Parliament. His entourage snaked there before he inspected the guard of honor, and thereafter the national anthem and the anthem for the East African community was played. He's now getting into the Parliament buildings just before everyone settles in, and he makes his address, the fourth and the final State of the Nation address, just before the August 8th general election. Remember, the Constitution mandates him to give the country a report once a year on the progress that they have made as an administration, as far as some of the promises that they made in their manifesto while campaigning to take over the administration. So for the Jubilee administration, we are taking a look at some of the achievements they've made since they were sworn into office in April 2013 to now. There have been 3 State of the Nation addresses, 2 of them quite memorable in 2015 when he was given a standing ovation by those in attendance in Parliament, both members of Parliament and senators from the opposition and his government, when under the Jubilee side, when he gave out a list of corrupt officials, promised to prosecute them. But this has continued to haunt him since 2015 because not much has happened. Corruption continues to be a thorn in the flesh, as Abi Agina describes it, has continued to dog his administration. The other State of the Nation address that is quite memorable is last year's, when the opposition disrupted it. We saw members of Parliament like Opiyo Wandayi Gladys Wanga being thrown out of the chambers for disrupting his address. The opposition, this was their way of showing how disgruntled they were, how unsatisfied they were by the manner in which the Jubilee administration was conducting itself, specifically the president saying there was really nothing new he was telling the country at a time when the country was facing a myriad of challenges. But initially we'd had rumors that, or there was word that the opposition was planning to disrupt this particular address. But from those that we have spoken to, they've said they really don't need to do that. Gladys Wanga, the women representative for Homa Bay, says they do not see the need to disrupt that particular proceeding today, because when you say goodbye to someone, you want to say it in a very peaceful way. So the opposition's thinking this time round is quite different from how they looked at things in 2016. They say they are the incoming administration and they would want to be seen as a respectable lot, seeing as they are the government in waiting. Remember, those on the Jubilee side will also be behaving themselves, because they are asking for re-election come August 8th. So there is a lot of expectation for decorum, a huge contrast from what was witnessed in 2016 as the opposition disrupted this particular session. So this time we're not really expecting some disruption. The election definitely being the game changer here, just about 145 days away. So both sides will be behaving themselves in a manner in which they would want Kenyans to treat them, even as we head into the campaign period, each side wanting to become the government come August 8th after Kenyans take to the ballot. So, Wakaba, we wouldn't be expecting a lot of drama like what we saw in 2016. But of course, Duncan Haemba, senior political reporter, was saying in as much as they've promised there won't be any disruptions, these are politicians we are dealing with at the end of the day. One minute they say this, the other minute they say this. So from your own assessment, do you think we would have the kind of scenario we saw in March 31st last year?
Well, indeed, Akisa, I think it's mostly a matter of wait and see. You just never know with Kenyans and their legislators. And of course, the fact of the matter remains that a lot of Kenyans are dissatisfied with the current condition of the country, be it the economy, be it the state of security, be it corruption, be it, well, the industrial action that has pervaded this country in recent times, you name it. Well, it is indeed the president's big day. And of course, most people want to hear what's on his speech first, what he is going to highlight and try to address before trying to reach a conclusion one way or another. And of course, you know, since his arrival, the president had been expected to first, of course, go to the new Senate building just to, well, acquaint himself with it and conduct an official opening. And I guess that's what is going on now as the packed house waits for him. Usually what happens is that we have invited guests in the gallery, of course, drawn from different quarters of the economy, be it religious leaders, be it people from civil society, be it players from different sectors of the economy. And this, of course, is supposed to reflect, well, the rainbow that Kenya is, and to be able to ensure that stakeholders are, of course, represented, and that the president will address issues from different parts of the country and issues that affect roughly everybody. Of course, over the past few hours, we have been listening to just what people expect and indeed want to hear in that speech. And this, of course, ranges from a large list. We have had the issue of VAT refunds, which was brought up by the chief executive of the Kenya Transporters Association. That, of course, was Mr. Alfai Otukia speaking to us in Mombasa. We, of course, had the issue of security in the counties of Baringo, of Laikipia, and the entire central north region of the Rift Valley. And of course, this was brought up by the Kenya Red Cross Society. The fact that they have been trying to work in that area, but life has been made really difficult by the armed bandits who have taken over that region. Is he going to address the state of insecurity or indeed the state of security in that region? We just have to wait and see. Of course, the perennial issue of taxation, tax refunds, it comes up every year, Kisa. The fact that the Kenya Revenue Authority does charge a tax that is then supposed to be refunded because this is collected at the point of purchase but charged on goods later on. And of course, as it is charged down the line, The Kenya Revenue Authority is supposed to refund this to the people who paid it, mostly large companies and large organizations. This has been a key sticking point for a lot of players because this ties up billions in capital. It has been very slow. It has been a very slow process to sort of wind these up in one way or another. Is he going to address that? Well, we just have to wait and see. Well, again, SMEs are 48% of the Kenyan economy. Are they feeling the pinch? Definitely. The rates of defaults across the entire banking sector are up to about 6%. This, of course, is the non-performing portfolio of loans. Depending on who you ask, anything up to 10%, something that is really strange for the Kenyan economy. Most of the times people do pay up their loans, and these times banks like Equity Bank and others. We spoke to KCB just a few days ago, and having to provision in a very big way for this debt, Akisa, the fact that most small and micro enterprises here in this country are not trading as well they should. Well, let's talk a bit about the cost of living. Industrial action usually means that people want a pay rise, but that, of course, is just one end of that coin. What exactly causes this situation? The fact that the cost of living has gone up. Well, inflation is at 9.4%. That, of course, was this month headline inflation. That, of course, is up from about 6%, 6.35% the previous month, year on year, of course. And this points to a steep climb in the cost of goods and services. Of course, the fact that we're in the middle of a drought, the fact that we have seen the prices of fuel go up, and a whole host of other issues, Akisa, that then contribute to a rise in the cost of living for most residents. Do you think he's going to provide answers in this speech, Akisa?
Well, quite a tough one there. And as you mentioned earlier, there's an array of issues, Wakaba, that Kenyans would really like to tackle. And on this block, when we were talking about the economy, some of the ratings that Kenyans gave them, we're getting numbers like 7 out of 10. We've gotten a 5 out of 10, of course, on a scale of 1 to 10. We've gotten a 0.5 out of 10. So there's a myriad of reactions from Kenyans on just how the economy has performed. And looking at what Kenyans are saying, they have the top priority issues that they want to be addressed, like you've mentioned, the issue of security, the issue of the economy, the issue of corruption especially. But looking at the past few months, some of the things that have dogged this particular administration, the drought situation, the doctors' strike, the lecturers' strike, the nurses' strike. We've seen the teachers' strike at some point. Last year, the clinical officers also went on strike. So there's an array of issues that Kenyans really expect him to tackle. You were talking about the rate of inflation. The other day, our colleague Timothy Otieno did a story on just how much it is felt down at the common mwananchi level, not the elite who can afford private services and the middle class going onwards. The mwananchi down on the ground who lives on, say, $100, which is 100 shillings, around there per day. So some of the issues that are very pertinent that Kenyans would love to hear. The opposition has dismissed so many of the questions that we've asked because they say that there's nothing much the president is going to say today. We've had one say it is going to be PR. They've described it as the PR government. But Peter, do you think there's anything new Kenyans should look out for today?
Indeed, a sticking point, Akisa, well, is to point out what has happened recently. The fact that the president was in a bit of a tiff with two governors over the past few weeks. The issue of national and indeed devolved resources, then pointing out here the fact that over the past few days, we have seen the president engage in a back and forth with the governor of Turkana County, Josephat Nanok. We have seen him engage with the governor of Mombasa County. That, of course, is Ali Hassan Joho. And at the center of these conversations has been the issue of resources. Well, of course, everybody knows that Mombasa is the gateway to the hinterland in East and Central Africa. Mombasa County controlling one of the largest resources in the region, the port of Mombasa, and a lot of funds having gone in over decades to expand this in one way or another. What exactly should be the local share of these resources for the county? And indeed, the same question being asked in parts of Turkana County, just how much should locals be getting?
Peter, we are seeing the president come in, make his way into the parliament buildings. Those are live pictures we are bringing you from Parliament live. The Speaker of the National Assembly there, and the Senate, Ekwe Thuro and Justin Muturi for the National Assembly, escorting the president into the parliament buildings. And of course, not the buildings really, but the chambers there, members of parliament there, upstanding as they receive the president into the August House there just before he makes his address. And those are live pictures we are bringing you there from Parliament. You seeing everyone seems to have taken place. So in any minute now, we expect the business to begin, which is that address by President Uhuru Kenyatta. A lot has been said in terms of the expectations we have, but currently we'll just wait and see what the president has to say. Let's cross over there and listen in.
Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with abundant favor and blessings as your servants, whom we have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Your Excellency, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, Honorable Speaker of the Senate, Senator Ekwe Thuro, Honorable Members of Parliament, Article 132, Clause 1, Paragraph B of the Constitution of Kenya requires the President to address a special sitting of Parliament of Kenya once every year and at any other time. Further, Article 132, Clause 1, Paragraph C requires the President to, among others, once every year, 1, report in an address to the nation all the measures taken and the progress achieved in the realization of the national values set out in Article 10, and 2, submit a report for debate to the National Assembly on the progress made in the fulfillment of the international obligations of the Republic. In addition, Article 240, Clause 7, requires the President to report to Parliament annually on the state of the security of the Republic. In this regard, honourable members, following a request from His Excellency the President and pursuant to Article 132, Clause 1, Paragraph B and C, Roman 1 and 2 of the Constitution, and the provisions of Standing Order number 22, Clauses 1 and 2 of the National Assembly, by Gazette Notice number 2189, which was published in the Kenya Gazette of 10th March 2017, I gave notice of this special sitting to the members of the National Assembly. Similarly, pursuant to Article 132, Clauses 1, Paragraphs B and C, Romans 1 and 2 of the Constitution of the and the provisions of Standing Order number 22, Pass 1 and 2 of the Senate Standing Orders, by Gazette Notice number 2190, which was published in the Kenya Gazette of 10th of March 2017, the Speaker of the Senate gave notice of this special sitting to the senators. Accordingly, honourable members, this special sitting is properly convened. It is now my singular honour and privilege to invite His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya to address this special sitting of Parliament. I thank you.
Dear Kenyans, speakers of both houses of Parliament, and honourable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today we celebrate an extraordinary Kenyan journey. 4 years of transformation, of growth, and indeed the deepening of our democracy. I want to take this opportunity to salute and to congratulate each and every Kenyan today for staying true to our solemn duty to protect, preserve, and promote our Constitution. Because of you, Kenya remains an oasis of peace and prosperity. Because of you, our country stands tall in the community of nations. Today, we celebrate a transformed Kenya. At the heart of this momentous change is without doubt Parliament. The 11th Parliament, which I liken to our first Parliament at independence, has undertaken a historic task of establishing a new constitutional order and legislating its fundamental instruments. Honourable members, you were charged with a historic task, a task to implement the new constitution that Kenyans bestowed of themselves in 2010. You have done that job well. Your commitment has put our nation on a solid legal foundation that is key to sustainable development. Fellow Kenyans and honourable members, the Constitution reminds us that our authority is a public trust to be exercised in a manner that brings honour to the nation and in full accountability to Kenyans by whom and for whom we hold that authority. We meet today to discharge our duty under that trust. Our Constitution demands that Kenyans and their representatives be informed of the state of the nation. As an accountable administration, we are obliged to explain to Kenyans what we have done with the mandate bestowed on us. It is my pleasure, therefore, to lay before this joint sitting of Parliament, and pursuant to Articles 10, 132, and 240 of our Constitution of Kenya, reports regarding the state of our national security, measures taken, and progress achieved in the realization of national values, and to the National Assembly, a report on the progress made in fulfilling our international obligations. Since taking my oath of office, the implementation of the Constitution of Kenya has been a key priority of my agenda. In the last 4 years, the Jubilee administration, with the help of this Parliament, has completed our constitutional implementation. During this phase, Parliament has passed, and I have assented to, 136 laws. Our democracy has matured. I took office as an embodiment of the transition to a new constitutional order. And since then, there has been a number of significant transitions. We have witnessed a momentous transition in the judiciary. Today, as we speak, we have a full bench in the Supreme Court, led by the second Chief Justice under the new constitutional dispensation. I take this opportunity to welcome the new Chief Justice, the Honorable Justice David Maraga, and his deputy, the Honorable Justice Philomena Mwilu. I reiterate to them once again the support of my administration to the attainment of an independent and honest judiciary. Our constitutional order delivers independent arms of government, while its spirit requires interdependence for our citizens, in whom all sovereign power resides, to be served fairly and effectively. Another significant transition has taken place with the renewal of our electoral body, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. This transition demonstrated our ability to navigate a complex political challenge and averted a constitutional crisis. I congratulate the old IEBC team for a job well done, and I pledge support to the new team. I have full confidence that this team is capable of delivering a credible election, and I call on all Kenyans to provide space for the IEBC to operate as an independent body as it undertakes its important national duties. During this period, my administration has supported the effective functioning of independent bodies. We believe in the value that these bodies add to our national fabric because they protect individual rights and ensure fair play and equal treatment for all. It is important that we accept and protect the role of independent offices and that we work within the bounds of our constitutional order. Undoubtedly, constitutional bodies should be held to account in the fulfillment of their mandates. However, it should be remembered that attempts to subvert this constitutional framework damages our democracy, undermines the rule of law, and weakens our institutional development and our nation. Fellow Kenyans, A significant pillar of our transformation in the past 4 years is the realization of the long-standing aspiration of the people of Kenya for devolution. This has been a historic undertaking that has few peers anywhere in the world. Indeed, one of my proudest achievements as president has been to chaperone the implementation of a devolved system of government. My administration has gone over and beyond the constitutional requirement by increasing the percentage of shareable revenues from the 15% required by the Constitution to 34%. We have also supplemented the development agenda of our county governments through conditional grants in areas such as health and water to manage what has been a complex transformation. My administration has engaged at the highest level through the summit and through the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council that is chaired by the Deputy President. My administration has also accelerated the transfer of functions and personnel to the county governments in accordance with Article 187, as well as the fourth schedule of the Constitution. As we together march forward, I believe we will build a stronger framework for intergovernmental cooperation to resolve any challenges that may emerge. And to this end, I have directed the Attorney General, in consultation with the Council of Governors, to review the scope and mandate of the Intergovernmental Technical Relations Committee. Honorable members, championing of devolution goes beyond the legal processes of implementation. By making this the timely transfer of funds far above the constitutional threshold and our smooth implementation of the transfer of functions, a welcome economic dynamism has emerged in our counties. Our support for devolution has driven us to seek out and implement, in partnership with county governments, projects that have a real and positive impact on county residents. It is due to such an effort that today the people of Wajir now have their first tarmac roads in history. Our support has ensured that the residents of Morogash in Garissa have witnessed their first cesarean section in their county. Our strong collaboration with the county government of Lamu has enabled the rehabilitation of a previously dilapidated King Fahd Hospital, as well as the addition of a new accident and emergency care center. This new facility, which will start its operations next month, will transform the health outcomes for the residents of Lamu County by offering dialysis, X-ray, emergency operations, and ICU services that were previously unavailable. In counties like Uasin Gishu and Narok, we are collaborating to build new stadia. Our joint efforts with the county government of Turkana has led to the successful implementation of a government-driven livestock insurance and compensation program, a first in Kenya and African history. The national government has been able to provide street lights in all county headquarters and to 36 other towns across the country. And this has injected economic vibrancy into previously sleepy towns. Fellow Kenyans, Together, we are champions of devolution. We believe in it. We have worked and will continue to work in order for it to deliver its full benefits to Kenyans. Honorable speakers, honorable members, fellow Kenyans, my oath of office decrees as my essential duty the protection of Kenyans and the preservation of our territorial integrity. This duty is all the more significant in light of our being a frontier state against global terrorism. Furthermore, our location in a fragile, conflict-prone region whose challenges are transnational means that our ability to secure the nation is fundamental to achieving our collective aspirations. In 2011, we made a historic decision. We sent our young men and women across the border in pursuit of an enemy dedicated to the destruction of our region and our motherland. Since then, and in collaboration with regional as well as international allies, we have robbed the enemy of territory, resources, and control over people. Still, the threat remains, and therefore, we continue our mission in Somalia. We know that if we fight the enemy in Somalia, we won't have to fight them here at home. Our engagement as part of AMISOM has yielded significant success. We have degraded the capacity of Al-Shabaab to carry out large-scale attacks in Kenya and indeed elsewhere. Our efforts together have led to the establishment of successive civilian governments in Somalia, including the recently concluded successful and peaceful election and transition to the President, Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed. Fellow Kenyans, in defense of our motherland and in fulfilling our international obligations to pursue peace and security, we have in the process lost some of our gallant officers. These losses remind us every day of the threat that is upon us. I stand here today to say that these gallant sons and daughters of Kenya have not fallen in vain. Their sacrifice for our freedom and our homeland strengthens our resolve. We shall remain unbowed, Kenya shall prevail, and our democracy will endure. Before I continue, I would kindly request that we all be upstanding for a moment of silence to honor our men and women in uniform who face the enemy daily and who have pledged their lives to protect the sovereignty, freedoms, and liberty espoused by our nation. I thank you. Fellow Kenyans, even as we recognize the sacrifices that have been made so far, we do appreciate that the war is not yet won. And I urge each and every one of you to stand firm in the support of our men and women as we continue our critical mission in Somalia. Honorable members, as you all know, my administration has been actively involved in the peace process in South Sudan on a bilateral and multilateral basis. While the situation remains unresolved, it is my administration's desire to have a stable and peaceful South Sudan, because our future, as well as our prosperity, is intertwined with that of our neighbors. Our efforts remain central to the search for a lasting solution. However, much more needs to be done to bridge the differences between the conflicting parties. In this regard, during my recent meeting with the Secretary General of the United Nations, I assured him of Kenya's unwavering commitment within the IGAD framework and other bilateral and multilateral efforts to contribute towards a durable solution. Fellow Kenyans, our engagement in the search for security in the region is critical. Failure to do this would translate to insecurity within our borders. On the home front, the incessant intercommunal conflicts and other criminal acts, including cattle rustling and poaching, are sustained by an inflow of illegal small arms and light weapons, as well as marauding bandits operating across the border. Furthermore, threats such as terrorism feed off transnational crimes such as drug and human trafficking, as well as piracy. These risks have largely been brought under control over the last 4 years through a series of actions. We have built a well-coordinated multi-agency approach to ensure public safety and security. We have invested in better equipment, training, and working tools. We have also increased the number of police officers. It will be remembered that in the Jubilee Manifesto, we promised to push the ratio of police officers below the existing, at that time, 1 officer for every 800 citizens. Today, I am pleased to report that we have kept our promise. Our ratio of police to the population is 1 officer to every 380 citizens. Better than the prescribed UN ratio of 1 officer for every 450 citizens. Our counter-terrorism efforts have delivered a sharp reduction in the number of fatalities, attacks, and attempts by terrorist entities. Added to the strong effort to dismantle terrorist operational capabilities, the government has increased its focus also on preventing and reducing the motivations underlying radicalization and recruitment into terrorism. Our national strategy to counter violent extremism is bearing fruit. This strategy is addressing radicalization by combining the efforts of diverse actors, from the state to civil society organizations, the private sector, and religious organizations to protect our democracy. This achievement takes on an even greater significance as the world learns that we are one of the few, if not the only country, that has expanded its civil liberties while on the front line of fighting terrorism. Our war on illegal drugs is steadily being won. The streamlining of activities at our ports of entry, especially the port of Mombasa, have resulted in rising successes against drug trafficking cartels. We are actively cooperating with several foreign law enforcement agencies to identify and bring to book the individuals involved in the international narcotics trade. I want to assure the families of the thousands of young men and women across the country who are victims of the drug trade that my government will facilitate access to rehabilitation. I also wish to assure those distraught mothers who have pleaded with me during my recent visits to the coast that my administration will catch up with the drug lords who are poisoning our children. We shall hold them to account for the deaths they have caused and the families that they continue to destroy. Honorable members, these successes notwithstanding, we are still confronted by lawlessness and violence in the form of banditry in parts of the North Rift and Laikipia. I wish to reiterate again that my administration cannot and will not condone the blatant violation of the rights guaranteed in our Constitution. And we will use all means at our disposal to pursue and bring to justice all those involved in causing this mayhem. I take this opportunity to warn politicians in the affected areas to stop incitement to any form of violence for you will indeed be held to account. In the last 4 years, my administration has worked hard to make Kenya an attractive destination for investment. I wish to reaffirm our commitment to the rule of law and to assure all domestic and foreign investors that we as a nation are open for business. I do appreciate that the drought we are currently experiencing has adversely impacted a significant portion of our population, and more so our pastoral communities whose livestock lack pasture and water. To our elected leaders at all levels, I urge you to work with both the national administration as well as the county governments to ensure that all our people have access to drought assistance packages availed by the government, including the livestock offtake program that was recently launched. Asante mama, wewe ndio umenikumbuka. Thank you. We will continue to ensure the orderly strategy of protecting and promoting the interests of our country. My administration is clear about its direction and sense of purpose. It is clear about its economic development agenda for Kenya. Indeed, when we were campaigning for the leadership of this country 4 years ago, we were clear on what our plans would be to establish a strong foundation for our country to prosper economically. While appreciating what our predecessors have achieved, we recognize that Kenya needs a transformation to support manufacturing and the knowledge and infrastructure it requires. It is from this transformation that plentiful and decent jobs can be delivered to our youth. To begin the walk towards industrialization, we needed to drastically improve and expand our infrastructure to increase access to electricity and diversify our energy sources. We needed to invest in our healthcare system and to recalibrate our education sector and make it fit for the future. We needed to strengthen our security and change our policies to encourage investment in industries and light manufacturing. That is what we have undertaken to do as an administration with the support of the Kenyan people. Allow me, honorable members, to highlight where we are 4 years later in keeping our promises and following through on our commitments as a result of the substantial changes that we have made to our business framework. For 2 years in a row, Kenya has been ranked as the third most improved country globally, according to the World Bank Ease of Doing Business Index. We promised that we were going to build a new railway from Mombasa to Malaba through Kisumu, and that we would complete the first phase from Mombasa to Nairobi before June 2017. Honorable members, we have kept the promise. Due also to the establishment of factories for the manufacturing of steel-reinforced slippers, anti-beams, small towns like Gadekani in Mutito Wandei and Emali are experiencing an economic boom. Indeed, I take this opportunity to invite you, honorable members, to join me in June as we ride the inaugural train from Mombasa to Nairobi. Asante. Indeed, in 2013, we promised to undertake the most aggressive road construction program ever witnessed in Kenyan history. Today, with 1,950 kilometers of new roads completed and another 7,000 kilometers under different phases of construction, we have kept the promise. The impact of these roads can be felt across the country. The citizens of Moyale, who used to spend 3 days on the road traveling to Nairobi, can now make that same journey in under 7 hours. From one bus a day 12 months ago, today 30 buses a day are plying that route. This has brought a new economic dynamic to towns such as Moyale, Turbi, and Marsabit. In Homa Bay County, the residents of Rusinga Island now have a brand new bridge linking them to Bita and improving the safety of transport in the lake region. In Taveta, banana farmers in Kimundia and Bohoni can now get their produce to markets in Mombasa in under 4 hours as the Mwatate Taveta Road nears completion. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a road that has been promised by 4 different governments, including the colonial one, for the last 55 years, but has only been promised and delivered by one, the Jubilee government. In Kilifi, the construction of the 51-kilometer Mariakani Bamba Road means that the farmer's song, Safari, oh yeah, Safari ya Bamba ni machero. This song, honorable members, now needs to be recomposed to safari ya Bamba Nirero. Yeah. In 2013, we promised to connect every county to fiber optic technology in order to ease access to information. Today, every county headquarters is connected to fiber, and 50% of all sub-county headquarters are also connected. We have kept that promise. In 2013, we promised to provide access to electricity to households in Kenya. Today, we have connected an additional 3.7 million new homes to electricity. We have more than doubled in 4 years the total number of connections made since independence. This has meant for Jacob Shirandula of Ubuya village in Malava, and Nancy Ekeno of Ogliagei village in Joro, being connected to the grid has changed their lives for the better, alongside that of millions of other Kenyans. We have indeed kept the promise. In 2013, we promised to connect electricity to all public primary schools by 2017. Today, having connected an additional 14,045 schools, representing over 98% of all public primary schools in the country, we have kept that promise. In the health sector, we promised to upgrade our public hospital facilities. Prior to 2013, only 4 referral hospitals had such equipment. 4 years later, through the Innovative Managed Equipment Service Program, I am pleased to say that 92 hospitals across all counties have now been equipped with modern diagnostic equipment. I have, for example, the uplifting story of Jackson Wamai, a 28-year-old secondary school teacher in Murang'a. He was diagnosed with kidney failure 5 years ago. He used to travel twice a week to Nairobi for dialysis at Kenyatta Hospital. He was almost dismissed by the Teacher Service Commission for absenteeism. Today, thanks to the upgrade done at Murang'a Level 5 Hospital, he now travels 20 minutes for his dialysis sessions and is able to properly serve his students. We have kept that promise. In 2013, we guaranteed the provision of free primary health care for expectant mothers. Today, we have doubled the number of expectant mothers delivering under the care of skilled medical attendants to over 1.2 million by the end of 2016. We have kept that promise. In 2013, we promised to increase access to affordable health care. Today, we have increased the number of Kenyans with access to outpatient medical care through the National Hospital Insurance Fund from 3.8 million in 2013 to 5.8 million in 2017. These include people like Caleb Balozi Omino, a farmer in Kisumu County who lives with a disability, and through the government-sponsored program, he was able to become a member of NHIF. In 2014, Caleb's daughter Esther fell ill and was admitted to hospital with typhoid a few weeks before she was to sit for her KCPE exams. It was through the intervention of NHIF that she received treatment, made a full recovery, and was able to successfully complete her exams. Esther is now in Form 2, and today I have also invited Caleb, who is here amongst us today as living proof and I'm happy to see that he managed to make it here. In 2013, we promised to bring service delivery closer to every Kenyan. Today, we have transformed service delivery through the Huduma initiative. We have 45 Huduma centers in 41 counties, providing 66 different government services to over 40,000 Kenyans every day. We have kept that promise. Further, through the innovative digital platform eCitizen, over 3 million Kenyans have successfully paid to access 197 different public services. These are services like passport applications, visa applications, driving license renewals, vehicle registration, business registration, company searches, applications for certificates of good conduct, amongst others. This is a promise that we have kept. In 2013, we promised to put in place incentives to support the role of youth as drivers of innovation in this country. After 4 years, Kenya shillings 11 billion has been accessed by close to 1 million young Kenyans. We celebrate the success of the fund through stories of young Kenyans like Irene Kaleye, based in Embakasi here in Nairobi, whose startup, Plan, Believe Groceries, won a contract to supply vegetables to Kenyatta University. She received a loan of 1.5 million from the fund to bridge her cash flows, which enabled her to fulfill her contract, thereby keeping her promise and we keeping ours. Despite teething problems, the National Youth Service Program, through the recruitment of cohorts in Kibera, has changed lives. They joined the SACCOs established, and in Kibera alone have managed to save over 123 million shillings, and this money has been utilized to start businesses and provide hope and gainful employment in Kibera. In 2013, we promised to provide social protection to our most vulnerable members in society. Today, our National Safety Net Program, Inua Jamii, covers 720 persons, up from 220 in 2013. The budget for this program alone has also been increased by 600% to 18 billion shillings. These are the beneficiaries, or they are beneficiaries like Mohammed Noor Ado from Bularama village in Garissa Township. He used to live a destitute life with his wife and 7 children. After enrolling in Inua Jamii in 2015, and he received his first payment of 20,000 shillings, which he used to purchase goats. Today, with the continued support of the program and his livestock trading business, he and his family are able to live a dignified life. Fellow Kenyans, I can go on. These are just some of the promises that we have fulfilled during our term. We acknowledge that the journey of transformation is one that we must walk with our people. And I'm therefore pleased to inform you that in the coming weeks, my administration will launch a public information platform to share in much more detail the government's delivery agenda during the last 4 years. Fellow Kenyans, let me now turn to the state of our economy. At the macro level, all indicators are healthy. Our gross domestic product has expanded at a strong average annual growth rate of 5.9% since 2013. This against a global average of 3%. Our foreign exchange reserves have increased from 4.3 months of import cover in 2013 to 5.1 months of cover at the start of 2017. Our revenues from tax collections have increased from 847 billion shillings in 2013 to 1.2 trillion shillings at the end of 2016. The stable economic environment over the last 4 years has seen the cumulative addition of 2.3 million new jobs. From this perspective, the state of our economy is robust. Fellow Kenyans, in spite of this good macroeconomic performance, there are still, however, too many Kenyans who are struggling to make ends meet, to find jobs, and to support their families. Wananchi want to know what these economic indicators mean to their lives. They cannot relate to how GDP impacts on the price of unga or what the stability of our currency means for them at the end of every month. Many of our citizens are wondering why their children are still struggling to find jobs. Others are worried that the government debt might be too heavy a burden for our economy to carry. Our SMEs are complaining that they do not have access to credit, in spite of the fact that the cost of credit in Kenya is the most affordable in the region after the capping of commercial bank interest rates in September of last year. Many Kenyans are frustrated at the seeming lack of progress in the fight against corruption. These concerns are legitimate, and there are questions that every citizen is entitled to have answered by their government. Addressing them is of utmost importance to me. So let me start by addressing the question of our public debt. Fellow Kenyans, our debt is about 50% of our GDP. Of that amount, less than half of it is in foreign currency. Our debt has grown almost proportionately to our GDP. Every year, since the start of my administration, we have consistently made adequate budgetary provisions to service the debt. I want to assure every Kenyan that at no point has the country been at risk of default or shown any inability to pay its creditors. Fellow Kenyans, that the borrowing my administration has undertaken, both from domestic and international creditors, has been solely to finance the most aggressive development agenda in Kenya's history. The evidence of the greatly expanded transport infrastructure, increased energy production, increased access to electricity, and improved security are plain for all Kenyans to see. As a responsible government, serious about creating jobs, we have to have the right environment to attract investment. That investment, in turn, will lead to jobs and an end to poverty. It will bring new economic opportunities across the country, especially to previously marginal areas, as I mentioned, Marsabit, Turbi, amongst others. I assure every Kenyan that all the funds borrowed will continue to be put to good use. Like a farmer who must sow their seeds before they can expect a harvest, our investment in infrastructure will be the seed that will produce the harvest of faster economic growth and more jobs for our people. Kenyans are ready and anxious for an economy that is world-class in attracting the investment that will turn us into a manufacturing powerhouse. My administration understands the scale of change our people need to improve their lives and thus our aggressive investment. At core, let us remember that these investments are for Kenya's future. On the issue of access to credit for SMEs, it is unfortunate that the unintended consequence of capping of interest rates was a slowdown in lending by our commercial banks. This is an issue that concerns us and is one that I am actively seeking to resolve so that credit can start to flow again to the real drivers of our economy. Honorable members, the leaders of the world's most prosperous and powerful countries have come to visit Kenya. They came to witness a country on the rise and to engage with an administration that they believe shares in their vision of a stable and prospering global economy. We have discussed with them and agreed on joint measures to take in pursuit also of peace and stability. They have also been eager to ensure that their country's companies have access to an economy that they believe has a bright future. On my part, I have engaged them here at home and abroad to advance my administration's economic diplomacy strategy. From India, we have secured equipment and the expertise to establish a new cancer center at Kenyatta National Hospital. Additionally, this engagement with India has allowed us to give the farmers in semi-arid areas like Embu, Kitui, Mwingi, Makueni, and Tharaka a ready Indian market of 1 billion people to which they can export beans, lentils, and peas. We have strengthened our security and development relations with the United States, the United Kingdom, the European Union, and Jordan. This has enabled us to markedly strengthen the capabilities of our security system in combating terrorism and transnational crimes, and to continue adding to our development efforts. China has been a key partner in the transformation of our infrastructure, significantly the SGR, that has been completed in record time. By traveling to France, I did secure funding to undertake major water projects across the country. In addition, through the Kenya Private Sector Alliance and the National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we have attracted many French companies to invest in Kenya's agribusiness. We have been able to develop new curricula in the automotive sector for our technical and vocational training institutes due to our engagement with the government of the Federal Republic of Germany. Japan is one of our most important partners. One of the areas of cooperation is the highly concessional funding we have gained to complete the Dongokundu bypass. Japan has also invested in our pioneering efforts to build tools to prevent radicalization and violent extremism. Our collaboration with the State of Israel, including our access to cutting-edge agricultural expertise and technology that can allow us to transform our agriculture in arid and semi-arid areas. Through the government of Korea, through the government of the Republic of Korea, we have received full funding for the construction of the Kenya Advanced Institute of Technology, the first anchor tenant of Konza Techno City. Through the EAC and the Northern Corridor Initiative, we have been able to improve the ease of movement of persons, the single network area for mobile telephony, the single tourist visa, and we have deepened regional integration. My administration has made private sector participation in all our international engagements a key pillar of our economic diplomacy. As a consequence, through the private sector, we have signed investment agreements with leading businesses from over 60 countries in 4 years. This has led to many multinationals establishing offices here in Nairobi and in other parts of Kenya. Since 2013, over 1,532 major companies from across the globe have set up shop here in Kenya. From VW in Thika to Wrigley's, who have invested more than 6 billion shillings in Machakos and are set to open a plant there in May of this year, and GZI, who have invested over 12 billion shillings in an aluminium can manufacturing plant at Sultan Hamud. This, honorable members, compared to less than 40 often quoted companies that have either relocated for corporate strategic reasons or downsized and closed for lack of competitiveness. To the members of the diplomatic community who have joined us here today, and to their colleagues in their capitals, know this: your friendship is important to us. It is important to the Kenyan people, who have always lived in peace with their neighbors and with a national consensus to do good in the world. We work hard for security within our country and are honest brokers in helping secure the peace for every country in our region that needs our help. We appreciate your support, both moral and material. You can all see that we are on a path to building a vibrant economy and a strong democracy. We want to take our relationship with you to greater heights of ambition and achievement in the future. Honorable members, fellow Kenyans, coming into government in 2013, we knew that eliminating corruption would be a journey on a rocky path. We started the journey by pledging to strengthen our legal processes to wage a successful war against economic crimes. Today, we have 90 special prosecutors for economic crimes in the judiciary. And the Chief Justice has established a special anti-corruption and economic crimes division of the High Court and has appointed 13 special magistrates to deal with anti-corruption and economic crime cases. In 2013, we pledged to make the necessary policy and legal changes to ensure that corrupt persons and companies would be barred from doing business with the government. We have kept our promise by enacting a modern and far-reaching bribery act, which I assented to late last year. I congratulate the captains of industry in the private sector who championed this initiative. In 2013, we pledged to pursue and freeze assets and proceeds of corruption and economic crimes. We have established the institutions that give us the capability to trace and recover money and assets globally which have been stolen from the public. These include the Asset Recovery Agency, the Financial Reporting Center, and the new Investigations Department at the Kenya Revenue Authority, where I am pleased to report that successes are being reported. To date, approximately 3 billion shillings has either been recovered or preserved for recovery, a first in Kenya's history. These recovered funds will be used for social programs. For example, the recently recovered funds from the Smith and Usman case have been used for the purchase of ambulances. Going forward, we are creating a framework of how recovered funds will be used in a transparent and accountable manner. We have chosen an approach that prevention is better than cure. Honorable members, cash payments, inefficiency and delays in service delivery breed corrupt practices. We have therefore invested in making service delivery more efficient and accessible through Huduma centers, the e-citizen, iTax, land registry services, and other digitized platforms. Indeed, following the establishment of the multi-agency team in November of 2015, we have changed the way our agencies coordinate and share information. What all these efforts add up to is an investment in the process, the capabilities, and mandates that we require to take on this big challenge. Now, no agency can again claim, no agency charged with the responsibility in this fight can again claim or argue that it does not have what it needs to fight this battle. My expectation, and indeed that of millions of Kenyans, is that convictions of prominent thieves and fraudsters will be the proof that our measures have started to succeed. At this juncture, I would also like to thank our friends from the international community who have partnered with us and supported us in this noble effort. One of the proudest achievements, indeed, of my administration is in delivering honest exams in 2016. This was the first in many years, and it was a blow against corruption. The compromising of the exam system had favored those who can afford bribes to the disadvantage of honest and hard-working students from disadvantaged homes. It had allowed unqualified students to take university courses that they have struggled to master and led to unqualified professionals with a belief in corruption as a personal enabler. There is no corruption worse than that directed at our youth. Our bold reforms added to the far-reaching curriculum changes and insistence on the upgrading of educational standards will lead to more and better jobs for our youth. I want to congratulate the team responsible for delivering honest exams and commend them for bringing Jubilee's admission and boldness to their work. Honorable members, fellow Kenyans, allow me to address myself to one of the biggest challenges and indeed threats to our economy and national well-being. That is our public wage bill. Our wage bill threatens to destroy our development agenda as a nation. Today, the public wage bill stands at 627 billion shillings per year, amounting to 50% of the total revenues collected by government. This staggering amount is used to pay the salaries and allowances of 700,000 public officers, including those of us who are here today. In simple terms, 50% of all the money collected as revenue from the Kenyan taxpayer goes into the pockets of less than 2% of the country's total population. For the last 2 decades, there has been a spiraling of the wage bill, fueled by incessant strikes, go-slows, and outright neglect of duties. It has denied our citizens critical services, disrupted the normal functioning of our society, and adversely affected our economy. During my term, some unions have put pressure on the government to further increase the wage bill to unsustainable levels without the constitutional and mandatory input from the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. These are issues that need to be resolved by all of us soberly, because we are fast approaching the breaking point. Earlier today, I received the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, from the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, an interim report outlining the review of remuneration and benefits for state officers for the period 2017-2022. This report recommends, amongst other things and other measures, a rationalization of the salaries and allowances paid to senior state officers, public servants, elected officials, from MCA all the way to president. That will result in a reduction in salaries and allowances for those elected in August this year. President, and indeed also as a Kenyan, I fully support the recommendations of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, and I call upon all of us to adopt these recommendations. Honorable members, I appreciate that the silent fear of every politician is ending their career in politics broke and destitute. This fear may have its foundations in our history, when our MPs and ministers would retire or lose their elective seats and thereafter wallow in poverty. Since then, however, as a country, we must agree we have come a long way in addressing these fears. However, we must always remember that the calling of leadership is to serve, not to become rich through serving. As politicians, we must accept that our ever-increasing salaries and allowances have contributed to the unsustainable demands by other cadre within the public sector to increase their own remuneration at the expense of our people and the country's development agenda. It is therefore upon us as leaders to restore the principle of servant leadership by respecting the will of the people and supporting the work of the SRC. The SRC recommendations help to contain the overall wage bill. They will allow the SRC the leeway to review the salaries of all public servants at national and county levels with a view of improving the terms of those in the lowest cadre. These recommendations will allow us to pay more attention to our medical professionals, our teachers, our policemen, prison officers, our military, and many others who also need to receive adequate compensation for the services that they render. Most importantly, by so doing, we shall all be respecting the wishes of our own employers, the mwananchi of this country. Honorable members, with that said, let us now look into the future. We have established a firm foundation which can now be used as a springboard to accelerate the growth of our economy and provide jobs for our youth. The path to national wealth all over the world is clear. 50 years ago, many countries, especially in Asia, were even poorer than we were. They were weighed down by corruption and limited national visions. Yet we witnessed them accelerate their development by reforming their governance frameworks and drawing massive investments that built industrial economies that have delivered millions of jobs to their citizens. Honorable members, there is no shortcut to matching their achievement. They also needed to build the same kind of foundation that we are currently putting in place. We are on a similar path, but we must run rather than walk along it because we do not have the luxury of time. And that is why I campaigned on a ticket of transformation. I knew all along that it was not enough to continue at the pace that we have been on for the past 50 years. We needed to fast-track the building of the assets that would lead to the growth of a strong, job-rich economy. That is why we have gone out of our way to give a new lease of life to industries that will accelerate the growth of our economy and provide jobs for our people. The revival of industries like Pan Paper Mills in Webuye, Rift Valley Textile Company in Eldoret, the re-establishment of the new motor vehicle assembly line by Volkswagen, Peugeot, and Toyota demonstrate that we are on our way. We have also given new impetus to the development of our blue economy to translate our fishing and shipping potential into new industries and jobs. Our transformation is for every Kenyan. It is underway, and the great promise of uplifting more of our people into the middle class will be achieved. What we must do to achieve this shared prosperity is to stay the course and continue building on our achievements so far. I believe that history will remember this period as the turning point when Kenya became a leading investment destination in the world and the newest entrant into large-scale manufacturing. Fellow Kenyans, I note, and we all know, that Kenya will conduct its general elections in August this year. Elections are nothing new to Kenyans. We are one of the few African countries that have had regular elections since independence without fail. We are an icon of democracy, a bastion of freedom, and a haven of safety where freedom of expression flourishes, but we must be mindful that democracy is a fragile state and we need to protect it. I wish to assure the nation that my government is committed to free and fair elections. The process of the preparation of elections is well underway. Parliament has passed legislations to improve the management of the electoral process. These include the Election Offences Act number 37 of 2016 to manage election offences, the Political Parties Amendment Act number 14 of 2016 to improve management of the Political Parties Fund, amongst others. My government has also enacted laws to enhance transparency and accountability of the electoral process and enacted the Election Laws Amendment Act number 36 of 2016 and the Election Laws Amendment Act number 1 of 2017. We wish at this juncture to also request the judiciary to ensure that they do not act as a stumbling block to our ability to hold free, fair, and transparent elections on time. On time. Indeed, as we approach the polls, I wish to remind Kenyans to uphold peace and remain united. Elections, after all, are a one-time event. But Kenya is larger than all of us. and Kenya shall and must remain. Those seeking political offices must desist from any utterances that may divide Kenyans along ethnic, religious, or other lines. Further, I also urge citizens to exercise tolerance before, during, and after the elections. The right to choose our leaders is precious. We know that our fathers and mothers suffered, struggled, and died to win the right to choose their own government. We know that a new generation of reformers renewed our democracy in the 1990s. And we also know of the long struggle for our new constitution that enshrines all those rights that people have fought for. That is the history of the struggle that has brought us here. Let us not dishonor the achievement of those who won our freedoms by breaking the unity that they established. Go and vote, and let us return to building the house that we have inherited together from our forefathers. Let me conclude by once again reaffirming that the state of the nation is strong, that we have kept our promise in ensuring that we have developed the country to establish a base for rapid growth, sustainable, shared prosperity, and job creation. We are now embarking on the journey to industrialization and ensuring a safe and prosperous nation for decades to come. Honorable speakers, members, fellow Kenyans, we must continue marching forward to build a prosperous Kenya, a Kenya that resonates with the dreams of our founding fathers, a Kenya that is stable and secure, a Kenya whose people are united in their ambitions and determination. Honorable members, I have worked every day of my first term to put us in a position to make this leap. The Kenyan people have driven this process every step of the way. It is your vision of transformation rooted in your daily needs of good jobs and rising incomes that I am pursuing. Together, we can change our country and change our lives. That is the single goal that Jubilee serves. And I urge all Kenyans to join me in delivering another term of people-focused governance, boldness of vision, and hard work as we rise even higher. I thank you all for your attention. May God bless you, and may God bless Kenya. Asanteni sana.